Hello everyone, just a quick update on the Google Earth so you can see some of the advancements we've made this year. I'm going to zoom in and hopefully Google Earth gives you a good trip in. Here we go, going into Sierra Leone, just off the Freetown Peninsula, right onto the land, and that's where we are. Let's give you a couple boundaries. Zones. And the zones. So there you go. Nice big water system. About 13 kilometers from this river mouth. It's about 26 kilometers for the big one. Go in here. And what I'll do, I'll get rid boundary. Okay, so what we can see here, most of this is new stuff that we've done or we've enhanced. So this is the house now. So we've got a house, we've had that for a while now. The security hut, we enhanced that. We put shade all the way around it. We've got a new chicken area where instead of the chickens running around eating all our potato leaves and our potatoes out of the ground, we now have them cordoned off, and they have their own duck pond, so it's chickens and ducks. And their fermented food has now been corrected by more lice, so they're now producing eggs and not getting sick anymore. The green little dots are keyhole gardens, and you'll see the pictures of the keyhole gardens that we've filled up and put their final mulch layer of leaves on top. And the banana circles aren't doing as well, but you do see that we've got, these are banana hills. They didn't actually do the circles that I asked, they did hills. And now I've converted the hills into circles. And I've shown them how to do that, but we still haven't got too much success there because the drip irrigation wasn't working properly, and I don't think we were watching it properly. When we saw that the pipe fat, we didn't realize that it doesn't mean that water's actually coming out, it just means the water's filling the pipe. But it's a learning experience, and this is one of the things we have to learn about the drip irrigation. Hopefully next year we may even install 1 inch instead of 3/4, so it may be a little easier, and we'll spend a little bit more time on the filtering of the water before it goes out there. But it's still very good for dispersing compost tea, fish water tea, and fertilizer effectively out, which is what we use for fertilizer. These are the main security beds, 15 beds. They have mulch on them, again, leaves, and effectively they will be the main beds that feed us. Right now they're growing cassava and pineapple. The cassava is a nitrifier, and it'll also create shade. So we had it all over the beds, but we're moving the cassava out to the edge of the beds, and then we'll put groundnut and potato in the middle, and that's our staple diet. That can be our staple diet for the going forward. And the cassava will grow year round if we give it drip irrigation. Normally in dry season it loses its leaves, but what will happen is if we give it drip irrigation, we've proved it this season, it actually keeps its leaves so we can have shade. Originally I was going to make this all a covered garden, but because the cassava has proved itself to actually be worthwhile throughout the year, we can keep it for 2 to 3 years, it can grow big and create very good shade. And when we want to reduce the shade, we actually eat the leaves or sell the leaves. So it's a very good crop in that perspective. And of course you've got a big tuber that's getting bigger and bigger every year. Along the brown areas are the swales, and they will basically grow specific types, pawpaw, banana again. We'll also put a little bit of cassava on there to nitrify the soil. A lot of the soil here is very sandy, so every time we can, we'll put nitrification mechanisms on there, or nitrifying plants, legumes. And then these trees will grow. These shrubs aren't very tall, they're maybe 6-7 foot high. What we need to get is about 10 meters high along these swales, so that the sun early in the morning and the sun late in the evening actually allows this area to cool. This is mainly around dry season. Around rain season, what we can do is actually trim a lot of these trees so we get a little bit more sun. But that'll be our covered garden between the trees and the cassava. We should have some good cover, and we can basically fight a lot of the excess heat that we get. These are ponds. We also have a pond here, I told you. This is the old aquaponics system. When I say old, it doesn't mean it's not going to continue to work. It just means right now, until we get security properly created here, we've certified that the land is ours, we've got local inhabitants respecting our borders, and we've got the local administrators not trying to steal land from the corner, then I'll start to invest in actually creating the proper aquaponics here and expanding that. But effectively, if I bring $20,000–$30,000 worth of solar pumps in here, which is the main thing that you're going to need for this, it can't get stolen. I have to be ensured that it's not going to be stolen. When I put test pumps in there, they got stolen very quickly as soon as I turned my back. So it really does need to prove that the local people, the local administrator and the local security can actually do the job before I start to invest properly in the aquaponics. And generally aquaponics will not feed or produce the food that local people eat, so stealing it isn't going to be a big concern. They'll have a big farm area, so if anybody does come in to steal, they'll generally steal the stuff that they understand. Hopefully we can put additional security around the aquaponics, and this will mainly be to produce vegetables and things for expats that are in the city, so that we have a good income there. And then of course we'll still have income for the rest of the farm, but we'll use that mainly to just improve the farm. Here is our big reservoir. We're quite proud of that, and these are trees that we planted on hills. I didn't actually ask them to do this, they kind of got the ideas themselves to do this, but not all of them have actually survived through dry season, but if they do, it'll be okay to have these trees here. The rest of this is swales, so here's you've got the set of swales here, as I said. This is actually a fire swale. One of our biggest problems here is the burning, and it burns everything, and so that's why everything's so white and it basically cooks during dry season. They do this deliberately on the whole land to keep it under control. I believe at one stage they were actually afraid of walking in here, so they had the idea to basically burn it, and they coppice, so they chop these other trees, which are basically a ginger plum or a rotten plum. Now those plums may be used in the future to graft multiple species on it, because the core and the actual plum, it's already established, and it can deal with the dry and the heat because it's already reached the water level. And just to mention, the water level doesn't really go down more than 2.5 meters, maximum 3 meters along here, and then it goes all the way up to, even in dry season, it doesn't go below 2 meters over here. So it's not that drastic. Once you start planting things, they will reach the water level quite quickly. It's just getting through that first dry season. And then in the rain season, obviously you get so much flooding that the roots may not extend as far as they can. So it's very much the months after rain season that will allow things to grow the fastest. And actually that's where they do a majority of their growing, the locals do over here on the land. But now the same people who are growing here are now part of our actual improvement, and they get contracts, so they're quite happy because they own land in other areas over here, and they can go and actually spend that money on things over there and continue to improve their own land. Plus they learn composting, hot composting, and they learn a few other things, and I let them, like if I buy tools for them to use, I allow them to then take those tools home to improve their own land. So that there's a lot of benefit on both ways. This is a second security hut, and then these are all hand-dug ponds. This is 40 beds that we originally made. It's got drip irrigation on it. The drip system's right here, or the water system's right here. You've seen those in the pictures. This is the 120 beds, and these are the riverbeds. The riverbeds have swales on each side like big gutters, so hopefully the water stays in there from the majority of the dry season. Maybe we can actually grow some fish. If we have to go deeper, we may go deeper. If things are good to us this year in London, then possibly we may go over there with a backhoe and try and dig this a little deeper and actually make some finger lakes coming out into these areas. These other beds are actually beds that they made ahead of their time, but what we've found is even in the dry season they're low enough to the water table to where they don't actually need watering for things like cassava. They seem to just grow when we stuck them in there, or we stuck the little 6-inch stick in there. The yellow over here is where we're going to go next, and these areas are basically little dams. You saw the 1, 2, 3 dams, and you don't have to make it that big because it's flat land, and so it'll spread out here and flood this area. This will flood here, and then we'll dig swales, or gutters rather. We call it double swales, where we put 2 back to back, and so you get that big gutter that you saw in the pictures, and it'll go all the way around here, and then we'll have beds on each side. So we're going to test this area this year. And it'll take about a month or 2 months to build these beds during drain season if they perform the contract. Everything else here, as you can see, these are swales out here, so we're slowly growing. This is all hand dug, it's all handmade, it's all involving local people, so that we can, and you've seen the people involved, so that we can actually improve the area, put money into the economy of the villages, and basically, they can learn as much about permaculture as they need, and eventually we'll start bringing people out who are permaculture experts to actually teach and improve the whole area, I think, and that's why we talk about possibly producing permaculture courses and things like that. So that's the future. Our boundary here is a little quirky. They've changed it a few times on me when I brought these surveyors in, but I've got a feeling after my own experiments with using bearings on Google Earth and using my first coordinate right here that I think is very accurate. I found that actually some of this, we actually hit the road over here. We got a lot of highland over here that's actually ours, and then we follow the road here rather than what the last surveyor's survey actually took us all the way down here and encompassed Kegbell. And I was getting yelled at and told that their fathers never sold the land, and actually they were right in my opinion now, but I had to follow the surveyor. But now the surveyor has some corrections, so we'll see what he comes back with. That should be in our next update. So you can see this is actually a lot of work on top of actually improving. So this is 2 contract teams doing the swales and all this. We also have our security team. They're also doing a lot of this digging, and they're performing the daily task, and they're performing the security at night. We do have dogs that help, but sometimes dogs yell for dog reasons instead of actually yelling for a problem. So it does keep them awake, but we are trying to deal with that. You saw we got them better beds and things, and it could be that the dogs don't start yelling till 12 or 1, so you can sleep well before that. And then if you exchange who's on duty at the particular time and who will continue to circle the area, then the other person can sleep. So one person goes home to Kegbell, the other 2 sleep here, and then Morlai sleeps in the main house over here. This is about 600 meters across here to here. Now you don't generally need to go all the way up here, but our watering systems and our pipes are now here, and we've of course got the reservoir over here. So it is important to do a good circle. Nothing too much to really steal. They did steal some top, and they have managed to get into our old chicken house and steal an aerator, a solar aerator. They probably want the solar panel to charge their telephone. Hopefully it doesn't work for them. But anyway, it's some of the things that we have to deal with, and we have to get better at doing security. We have to get more involved in understanding that stopping people from coming through this particular area, at least the first 2 zones, possibly 3 zones, and walking from the village straight across, will improve your security. Stopping people coming in here and resting all the way inside our area, but maybe making them something over here that they can rest, get fresh water, and then carry on, walk towards Kegbell, and then walk up the main road, and rather than constantly come through our particular area. Because when people come through, it may not be the people that we know who walk through who steal. It could be that they speak about something they've seen while they're in the village, while they're in the town, and then the thieves hear them and they come in and they basically come and steal. And it is very hard to actually secure this whole area while you're working as well. One of the good things are we now have people cooking for us in the village, so that we do get food regularly. So after an entire day's work, you don't have to then spend 2 hours cooking for yourself in the bush effectively. You actually have somebody coming with full meals. So I think that has actually boosted morale quite a bit. And I think just the consistent income that's been going into the village, especially now that the economy in Africa is getting so bad. I think that has actually boosted morale and made people realize that what this actual farm does for them on the long haul is actually very positive. Okay, so I'm just going to take all the markers away and then just show what Google Earth now is showing. So you can see our beds, our swales, the old aquaponics, the other security hut, and these are all the beds. So these aren't just pictures I'm putting on top of Google Earth. These are actually quite some major advancements. I'll pop back here quickly to past years or past times. 2015, for some reason Google Earth had shade over everything, or rather a cloud over everything we'd actually accomplished. So even through that year we couldn't show anything. And then 14, it seemed to just go crazy. I think it just took a picture during the middle of a thunderstorm. And then in 2013, if this is 13, that's not 13. This is no, that's not 13. So now they've even got the pictures jumbled up because we didn't have this here in 2013. There you go. So this is actually what 2013 looked like. We had one bed made, and we were just learning this. The aquaponics had been put out here, and we'd started to build it, and now we were doing the test. We put some roofs on these, on the ponds, and then we put the solar pumps out there, and they stole them within a month. As soon as I went to town, they stole them and claimed that somebody had come in with guns and told them not to go near them, they were going to take them. But I personally think it was just the two security guards that we have lied and basically stole it. But there's not much point in prosecuting them because effectively they'll just get out in a few months. And if you do prosecute somebody here, you have to pay for them to eat in the prison. So it's really a waste of time. It's more about trying to get people to be involved in the farm, to try and get people to realize the farm can bring them a lot of knowledge. It can bring them a lot of advancement. And one of the things to probably mention is we have applied to USAID to try and build, to get them to see if they'll build a cultural center around here. Now this is also where the chief, the paramount chief, decided that it was okay to steal sand and gave everybody permission to send trucks, and you saw the trucks in the pictures, to come and steal sand here. Now luckily we had a gentleman called Honorable and Prince, who is the prior chief's people, and effectively they managed to get administration to stop them stealing the land here, the sand here. Right now, from the positive side, they've dug a big hole. Hopefully it fills with water and fish, and we have a big fish pond here. But the fact is that they did not respect boundaries, and that's a major issue when it comes to investment. Because if they don't respect land boundaries, then they won't respect property. And if you don't respect property, nobody's going to invest in your society. And that's something I'm trying to teach. And here, of course, like I said, the boundary goes all the way to the road and comes down here. So we do actually have some high ground here that may be better for building houses for expats who may come in and do some teaching in the cultural centre. We still can do, this year I'm hoping to maybe build a few bungalows around here for those adventurous people who want to kind of come and live in the African bush and maybe teach a few things, specific skills that we can teach them either from fishing or from plant or permaculture and things like that. Anyway, that's about it for this. Hopefully that explains what's gone on, and hopefully the rest of the video is entertaining.